Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining the Coach Mike Fantasy Football Show, formerly the Walter Football Show, and Walter will be joining us later on. But right now, Walter has gone to day trading. He may or may not have time to spend time with us. So our focus this season is not only going to be on daily fantasy, it's going to be more on the waiver wire. So we're on Tuesday nights, so we can help you guys with your drop ads before the waivers are processed on Wednesday. And now I have some esteemed guests tonight that I'm thrilled to have, and they're all in my fantasy football league, Chasing Lombardi, which is an incredible league with some really smart guys. And I'm going to mention all their names right now before I forget anyone. First of all, we've got the Maven, Matt Hawkins, NFL analyst, Stafford Infection, Grove City, Ohio, Lions fan. The Brett Fog Breather, Matthew Humphrey, Albrises. He lives in Newcastle on Tyne, England. He's a Saints fan, and he should be joining us tonight. We have the professor. I am Ken Reagan, International Master of Chess, University of Buffalo professor. He owns the odds-on favorite, Hayden Hurst, New York Bills fan. Defensive dynamo, Dale Williams, DK's Wild Dingoes, Tampa, Florida Bucks fan. Jocular Jim Eade is our producer tonight. Giants fan. Doug's Reject, Doug Legvold in Phelan, California, the Mojave Desert, chess player, Bucks fan. Phoenix 828, owned by John Sparks in Tampa, Bucks and Saints fan. Golden Gators, Danny Woodall, Port Neches, Texas, lifelong Cowboys fan. And I am Coach Mike, Chasing Perfection in Tampa, Florida, Packers fan. So we have some topics tonight. And the first question I'd like to put out to everyone is, what stimulated your passion for football? Now, mine was stimulated by growing up in near Green Bay, Wisconsin in the 60s. I got to meet Coach Vince Lombardi, Bart Starr, Paul Horning, Ray Nitschke, all those guys. So I've been a football addict for life. And now, Matt Hawkins, I'd like to ask you, what got you interested in football, in fantasy football?
Thanks, Mike. For me, honestly, this jersey right back here that you see, Mr. Barry Sanders right there, me as a lifelong Lions fan, Barry Sanders, his electrifying highlights, just the way he presented himself in the field, really just got me going as a fan. I've been a fan ever since, huge diehard Lions fan, and he started it all for me.
Amazing player, electric, just amazing. He could gain like 1 yard for a bunch of times in a row, and then he break one. It's inevitable. Yeah, amazing guy.
If he hadn't played for the Lions his entire career, he'd probably be playing until he was like 36. He probably would have held all-time records, but unfortunately retiring at age 30, just like Calvin Johnson did.
Oh, my God.
I'm a fan sometimes.
So has it been since 1956 you guys haven't won a title?
Yeah, and we've won one playoff game in 60 years. So there's that.
Amazing loyal fan. So we have the esteemed Professor Ken Reagan. He's a mathematician, so this guy should crush us at fantasy football. But thank God he does stuff in real life where he doesn't have the time to devote to fantasy football.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I'm writing a chess cheating email in another window.
Right. And he's in University of Buffalo. And guess what fan he is? He's a Bills fan. What got you interested in football, Ken?
Let's see. So I used to be really interested in hockey. In fact, everybody I dated saw that I had pillows with NHL logos on it on my bed. And then I was also a baseball fan, but I moved to Buffalo. And since we moved to Buffalo, football became de rigueur. And I started off playing fantasy baseball, but fantasy football is also a fun game. So I've gotten into it. I still might not say I'm as proficient at it as baseball, but there we go. And fantasy hockey never makes much sense to me. I've done it.
Amazing that you have the time to do any of that. Now, Mr. Eade is a friend of mine. He's in San Francisco. Dude is a known chess player and organizer and teacher. And he has to be out of his mind to have been hooked into producing our show, but I deeply appreciate it. We put everything together with airplane glue and rubber bands, and it's actually going pretty well. And by the time the season starts, I hope that we can go viral. But Jim, everybody would expect you to be a 49er fan, but actually you have a different story. He's a Giants fan. What got you interested in football?
I was born in New Haven, and so my dad was a Giants fan. My dad was a Yankees fan. My dad was not much into basketball, but he would have been a Knicks fan if he was. So everything was New York. We got New York papers. We got New York TV shows, TV channels. So everything was in New Haven. Everything was New York. It's an extension of New York. So, I've been a Giants fan all my life.
Do you remember Frank Gifford? Did you actually see him play?
He was just a little bit before my time, but my dad did, yeah.
So you saw Frank Tarkenton?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I saw him come into Lambeau and just destroy us. I mean, as a Viking and as a Giant. Just an amazing player. I love Frank Tarkenton.
You could not tackle him. He was one of those original guys that you just could not tackle him. He just escaped sure death on many plays.
Yeah, Willie Davis got tired of chasing him around.
Right.
Okay, so the next question, let's see. Oh, yeah. Your best and worst trade ever. I have a great story about this, so I'll let you guys go first. Matt, what was your best trade and maybe your worst trade ever?
So the best trade actually involved you, Mike. This was in 2015. I traded Le'Veon Bell to you in a dynasty keeper league. In return, I received 3 first-round draft picks. Actually, I take that back.
It was 100.
I'm sorry?
You're still paying.
The 2019 draft pick that I got last year, I used to get Lamar Jackson. Then I got J.K. Dobbins. Well, I'm going to get J.K. Dobbins this year. I shouldn't say that too loud, but he's going to be the one I'm going to pick with this year's pick. And the next year, who knows? So that's quite a bit for Le'Veon Bell, who's now past his prime.
No. Adam Gase has something to do with that. Next year, Le'Veon will blow up on a new team.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
The jury's out, but I feel like I won that trade pretty handily.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. That was. You really took me to the pawn shop on that one. Bravo to you. So, Ken, you got any trades that are memorable?
Not really, no. I mean, it's been quite a while since I played fantasy football.
You just did a cool trade, though.
One league for a long time, so I'm trying to remember trades. I don't remember them. I think I did trade for a defense, and that was significant. I got traded a wide receiver for a defense. Dude. Worked out.
You gave up Odell Beckham and
right, in this league.
Baker, right. You gave up Odell and Baker Mayfield. AJ Green and the Buffalo quarterback, which you really love, and Josh Allen.
That was actually a good trade, Ken. I give you credit. That was a good trade.
I'm actually down on 3 of those players, but I'm up on Allen, so.
Yeah, Odell has really lost his mind. It's a shame. Talented player and just crazy head. Jim, you got any trades?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that as a Giants fan, Odell Beckham was amazing and amazingly disruptive. So I don't know if he was disruptive on the field more than he was disruptive off the field. So he was. He's quite the question mark, and maybe he'll have a great year. And I wish him the best. But
I wish him the best too. He hasn't shot himself in the foot yet. That's the usual norm.
The other guy, I got a story about that. Now, Jim, do you think the Giants were right to get rid of Odell?
Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry to say that because he gave us so many thrills, but I think that it wasn't a good fit anymore. He just had to go, and it's like I said, it's a shame.
Okay.
We had a lot of injuries too in time there. I mean, but he hasn't been the same player since he went to Cleveland.
Yeah, I just saw Baker interviewed today saying that they're going to be a hell of a lot better than they were last year, and that he promises their connections will improve, and I believe that. So the next thing, I can take my trade story and I can segue it into the next question. which is your funniest fantasy football story ever, if you guys have that. But mine is the same thing. Let's see. I'm going to read it to you. Okay. On November 28th, 2008, the year I started fantasy football, my son would stay up with me till 3 in the morning. He taught me everything I knew about fantasy football, and I so was in awe. Oh, my God. The first, I was stupid. I was trying to figure out, I got this fantasy football thing figured out. And I heard Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, how Joe Buck had just won the league for his network. And Troy said, how did you do it, Joe? And he said, it all starts with Tom Brady. So dumb Mike, my first year, the first draft pick I made, and it's dumb to draft the quarterback first, but I drafted Tom Brady. And my sons all laughed at me. And then Brady got hurt that year. He was out for the season. So that was just everybody I drafted in that league for like 10 years. Their season was over. It was worse than the Madden curse. If I drafted somebody first, I killed the guy. It didn't matter who it was. It was hilarious. But I did make one good trade that year. I so admired CJ2K, Chris Johnson. So on November 28th, 2008, I traded my son, Plexico Burris, for CJ2K. And Plexico suffered an accidental self-inflicted gunshot wound to his right eye.
That's a result. Yeah.
I remember that.
Lexington Avenue, New York City, with his Glock pistol in the pocket of his black-colored sweatpants, began sliding down his leg, and apparently reaching for the gun, he inadvertently pressed the trigger, causing the gun to fire. Now, this stuff I didn't know. I just looked all this up today. The Manhattan District Attorney stated Burris was wearing jeans. The injury was not life-threatening. He was released from the area hospital that afternoon. 2 days later, he turned himself into the cops to face criminal charges of possession of a handgun. It was later discovered the New York City police learned about the incident only after seeing it on television and were not called by the New York Presbyterian Hospital as required by law. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg called the hospital's action an outrage and stated they are a chargeable offense. Bloomberg also urged Burris be prosecuted to the fullest extent. They should get 3.5 years. He got 20 months. And that's just like, that was the best trade I ever made. Like I knew he was going to the club that night. That's what I told my son. My son was furious. But that's pretty funny. So,
I have a better memory of Plexico Burris.
Yeah. Anybody else got a funny moment?
So I don't have a funny moment necessarily, but I have it's kind of funny moment actually. A funny trade, I guess you could say, trade that didn't happen.
Oh, I know where you're going.
So last year in Lombardi Legend, a league that me and Mike are in together, made a trade with Kenyon Drake for a 4th round draft pick. This is right as he got traded to the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he was going to Detroit, which is why I wanted him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the trade was made right when – that's actually true. The trade was made right when you thought he was going to go to Detroit. Then he actually went to Arizona instead. And then you were like, I don't know if I want him anymore. So Michael had to cut a player to make this trade happen, but he decided to cut the player that was in the cut to avoid the trade. So essentially the trade got voided. I got to keep Kenyon Drake. I got to win my championship, possibly because of Kenyon Drake.
That's the other guy you beat me with. Right.
So
that's right.
Hey, you know what? It's a funny story. It
was a legal loophole, and I told him, dude, if you really feel bad about me using this loophole, I'll go through with it. But, I shot myself in the foot because that was a Thursday night game, too. Kenyon Drake played like Gale Sayers, dude. He just blew up his very first game. That's how bad Adam Gase is as a coach. So, bravo to you. I should have had him, and I was brilliant to go after him because he was going to save the Lions. But I thought, no, not on the Cardinals. So,
I'll be honest. I wouldn't have never expected that. I wasn't even planning on keeping the guy. So I was like, you know what? I'll get a 4th round pick for him. Who cares? Now I'm keeping him for sure. So,
Outstanding. Yeah, I learned a lot from that. So any funny stories, Ken or Jim?
I don't know if we're going to do thrilling moments separate from funny stories, but I have a thrilling moment.
Go ahead.
Okay, So my best ever moment in fantasy football was the one time that I paid money to play in an ESPN league. Not with cash prizes, but you just paid the subscription feature. And I was in the running. I had Tiki Barber as one of my running backs, and he played the last game of the last weekend. And I was 6 points behind coming in with 4 minutes left in the game. And something happened that could have ended the game, where the teams would have just started taking kneel downs. But instead, the Giants were in with a chance, and Tiki Barber broke off a 60-yard touchdown run to bring me the title with 2 minutes left in the game. Anyway, yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I got a little contribution. One is fantasy football and one is not. But the fantasy football trade that I made was because my friend and I were drafting back to back, and I wanted Barkley as my running back, and he was going to take Barkley right in front of me. I knew it, and he was, teasing me about it. And so I said, okay, if you don't take Barkley, then I will. You have veto power over my next 2 rounds. I will pass somebody to you that you want, and I won't take them. And so, so he picked the Saints running back, who the year before was fantastic, and who got hurt. And so I got Barkley and won the league. And so that was my best trade. But the other, which was not really a trade, it was just veto rights. But the funny story was my best friend, who was an MIT professor, Stanford professor, and is now an assistant dean at Stanford. He and I have been friends since the 7th grade, best men at each other's weddings and that sort of thing. And so I always hosted the Super Bowl party. But this year, another friend of mine, both chess players, and I were getting together at this other guy's house, and I invited him along to this. So there's 3 chess players and this professor, and so he's a Patriots fan. I'm a Giants fan, and they're in the Super Bowl together. And the Patriots go up with little time remaining, and he starts to dance around. He starts dancing around, sticking his butt out, doing all this shaking, and these are guys he just met that he's doing this in front of. And so I'm just like, oh, man, I'm so embarrassed for him. I'm so devastated about my Giants. And then the Giants come back and win. So don't dance too soon.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah,
You never know.
Patriots epic. Okay, so now it's time for us. I just wanted to introduce everybody. We may have gone a little too long with this, but actually it was only 18 minutes. Well, I wanted our audience to know who everybody is. Now, the reason you guys are here is for the meat of the matter. We're here to give you fantasy advice. And I know Matt Hawkins, I've been competing with him for 10 years. He is a maven. He is an NFL analyst unparalleled. So let's get to the questions of, first of all, let's go with breakout candidates. And I guess I'll go first. Breakout candidates for this season. Brashard Perryman. He didn't, the Bucs have a great receiving core, but Evans was out and Perryman got to play like the last 5 games. The numbers he put up for those 5 games placed him number 2 in the NFL. Now he's gone to the Jets because the guy deserved some payment. The Bucs wanted to keep him, but they got a loaded receiving core. So to the Jets, and he's got a great rapport already by all reports with the quarterback there. But he's also got Gase as a coach, but he is the only deep threat the Jets have. So I expect he's going to do well. Another one, but that Matt loves, Hayden Hurst, who was behind Mark Andrews with the Ravens. He's now gone to Atlanta to take Austin Hooper's role there. I never was impressed with Austin Hooper. Whoever plays tight end for the Falcons is going to blow up. And I think Hayden Hurst is the most talented guy they've had there. And then the other ones are just the obvious. I'll just say all the rookie running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, and Jerry Jeudy. So those are my breakout candidates. The rookies are just way too obvious. What have you got, Matt?
So you kind of stole one of them from me. Hayden Hurst, he's number 12 ranked on Fantasy Pros, which honestly I think he could be a top 4 tight end this year. He's kind of taking the role of Austin Hooper, who was top 3 tight end throughout the stretch last year. And honestly, I think he has even more talent than Austin Hooper did. They traded a second-round pick to get him in Atlanta. He was underutilized in Baltimore, being behind Mark Andrews. Never going to get playing time there anyways underneath him. So he's someone that I think could be a top 5 tight end this year. So he's a definite steal for someone early in later in the draft. The next big one for me is Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to break out this year. I know it's a teammate of Hayden Hurst. At Ron Falcons offense, he's going to throw a lot. They're going to be high profile with Matt Ryan. Really good offensive coordinator with Dirk Cutter. I think they have really potential to break out, and obviously, Julio Jones is getting up there. I think Ridley's going to be the next coming once Julio Jones is ready to kind of see some of those to him. And he's ranked 16th overall for receivers. I think he could easily be top 10 this year. And then the last one I have, running back wise, you kind of mentioned a little bit, is Duncan Taylor. He's being drafted as a 21st running back in a lot of leagues, which he's going to be a little time short with Marlon Mack, but they're saying that he is probably going to be like the hot guy is going to get whoever's got the hot hand's going to keep going. And I really think he's going to steal some of those touches from Marlon Mack and just kind of take over. They have a dynamite offensive line. It's one of the best offensive lines in football. So, Marlon Mack is not as talented as Jonathan Taylor is. Jonathan Taylor is just going to take and run with that position, and he's going to be dominating towards the end of the season in fantasy football playoffs. So,
Okay, except what Wisconsin running backs have been disappointments in the past, big time.
Oh, tell me.
True. Amir Abdullah, he was one. No, he was Nebraska, right? But
Ron Dane.
Yeah, Ron Dane.
That's the one I'm thinking about, Ron Dane.
Yeah. Other than that, Taylor reminds me of. Oh my God, I knew this was going to happen on one player. Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's very, very similar to that. He could be like this year's Saquon too. I think Jonathan Taylor absolutely, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is just fallen into an incredible position in Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean you can't pass up Clyde Edwards-Helaire over him. I mean there's no question with Mahomes and that Chiefs offense. I mean you can't. And plus with Damian Williams being out, opting out, that's a no-brainer there for sure.
Yeah. What Clyde reminds me of is Emmitt Smith, and let me tell you something. There's two things. I want to talk about the auction drafts a little later, but I went to a Monday night game in the Georgia Dome, the first year there. And when you hear the dun, 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 it's like the chills of hearing the Monday Night Football team. And then the Falcons come out. They had Deion there, and I was right there by the kickoffs, front row. And the smoke and everything, the Falcons come out, Jerry Glanville. And you actually believe they're going to win. Until the Cowboys came out, right? And I put $500 on the Cowboys that night. I won money. I went and called my bookie on the phone right there, and then watched. And Emmitt Smith disappeared into a pile where you couldn't see the guy. That's the thing that Clyde and Emmitt have in common. You just can't even see the guy. And then suddenly came out of the pile like a 50-yard run for a touchdown, right in front of you. It's really cool. So Clyde is really smart. He's tiny, but what he does is. They got it scripted for him with Andy Reid, where he just picks where the linebackers are going, and then does his jump cut, and he's gone. Yeah. And that fits. And plus, he catches passes on screens for Kansas City, so I think he's going to be great. Ken, you got any guys you like?
Not really. I'm afraid I haven't really gotten into it. I can't even tell. Who is going to be better between Raheem Mostert and Philip Lindsay. I keep on hoping that Philip Lindsay will be a good player. He's supposed to be first in Denver, and didn't Denver get rid of that weird GM with the running back committee like 20 years ago? I guess not.
They just went and got Melvin Gordon, dude.
Oh.
They got Melvin Gordon and Lindsay in a committee.
Okay.
Mostert's in a committee too with Shanahanigans.
Right.
Well, his dad was horrible, but Kyle's even worse. He does that crap with wide receivers and running backs. You never know. And it wouldn't surprise me if Tevin Coleman becomes the lead back there. But I love Mostert.
Now, with what he did last year in the Super Bowl, I mean, he could break out as well. I mean,
right.
It could be a one-year wonder. Never know. He's getting up there in age, but
Yeah, he's been with, what, 5 teams? It's baffling because the guy looked great to me the first time I ever saw him as a 49er. I've always loved him as a 49er. Speaking of 49ers, what you got for us, Jim?
Well, I was thinking that, obviously rookie running backs are the people you want to keep an eye on because you can usually get a real steal if you pick the right one.
Yep.
And I usually shy away from wide receivers because it sometimes takes them 2-3 years to really get a feel for the NFL game. But I think Judy is.
I cut Hopkins his first year because I lost patience. What a dummy I am. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking Judy might be a standout wide receiver right off the bat. But the one guy, and this is not just because Matt's a Lions fan, but I would look out for Marvin Jones. He and Stratford had a tremendous connection last year, and then he got hurt. And so if he stays healthy, I think he's going to have a sensational year and very, very under the radar right now.
Yeah, if Matt Stafford's healthy, totally agree with you. Absolutely.
Marvin Jones and Kenny Gallaudet actually together were leading the NFL in touchdowns before Stafford got hurt. They were like 1 and 2 for the first 4 or 5 games of the season. So they got potential there for sure.
Okay, we've really been negligent not mentioning the other guy. And I'm going to defer to Matt on this because he is the Lions expert. What about Swift, man?
So the thing that is tough for me with Swift to fully buy in is, the Kerryon Johnson situation. So, Kerryon Johnson, I mean, he was injury prone last year, but he's definitely going to get some touches. It's going to be a timeshare situation for sure. Swift is probably going to be getting more of the pass catching, plays, but
what about short yardage? Rushing touchdowns. That's going to go Kenyon.
I think so too. I think there's going to be more passing downs from Swift, but I don't think they're going to fully buy into just giving him, the bulk of the workload right off the bat. I think it's going to be one of those situations where Kerryon's a guy. We'll run with him for now, and then kind of see how things go later in the year, and see if Swift can kind of steal it away from him. Obviously, there's the injury factor. If Kerryon gets hurt, then maybe Swift takes over and dominates. But it's going to be,
Kerryon always gets hurt. And I think we've all taken Cam Akers off our board because the Rams' offensive line is so bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now sleepers.
Mike, before you go on, we got a message from the audience. The viewing audience wants to know: do you even think that the NFL will play a season this year?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
No doubt.
Yes.
What do you think, Cam? Okay, we got two.
Yes, the NFL will play, but that the real question is going to be how much alternation of squads will there be? Like, will there be clusters of coronavirus cases so that essentially your running back by committee will be 4 backs instead of 2 backs and so on?
And quarterbacks.
And
quarterbacks will be very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're definitely. Will they finish the season, or will they move to a bubble for the playoffs?
I think there's a lot up in the air.
Yeah.
I'm just not positive either way.
But I think they're going to pull off. There have been 0 cases in the last week of NFL players with COVID. So I think they're doing a really good job.
Yeah, the Bills had a false positive test.
Right.
That is a great question.
Whole bunch of false positives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting. I mean, baseball kind of struggled when they first started off. They've kind of come around. There hasn't been as many cases. NBA, obviously, what they did with the bubble has been brilliant, but I don't see that realistically happening in the NFL. I just don't know where they would do that.
They got better tests, too. I don't know why the NFL can't afford tests where they get the results right away. That just baffles my mind. The NBA, no problem. They know right away. NFL, well, we got to wait, and then we get wrong. I mean, what's up with that? NFL's got a lot more money than God. So they got to fix that.
But there's a lot of money to be had, and they can't afford to just, you only got 16 games. You can't afford it.
Yeah. Great question.
Yeah, it's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah, exactly. So sleepers, I've got 2. I got Paris Campbell because T.Y. is always hurt. I think Paris, it's hard to know what Phillip Rivers is going to do. And then you got Pittman there too. But I think if somebody has a shot to make a I don't even know Paris Campbell's going to be a late pick, but Paris Campbell in Indy. And I really like Brian Edwards at Las Vegas with the Raiders because he has already outshined Ruggs. And Gruden is a mad scientist, so I don't trust him. But those are the two guys for late picks that I might invest in. You got anybody, Matt?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have a committee sleeping team. So for me, the Eagles receivers, someone there is gonna be a sleeper, right? Their highest receiver they have on the draft board from an ADP standpoint is Desean Jackson at number 58. Then you got Jalen Reagor at 59. You got Alshon Jeffrey at 61. One of those guys has to break out. And being drafted way late. So any one of those guys, it's kind of a crapshoot. One of them is gonna be a sleeper for sure. Also,
that's a very good one. Very good.
I had Jeffries last year, and he got hurt when he was healthy. He was very productive. So, yeah.
He's got potential to. If he stays healthy, he can be a huge steal. I got a deeper one for quarterback. Not a lot of people are really talking about Drew Lock, but he's someone that really could be a steal. He's only being drafted as the 25th quarterback. He's got some new weapons this year. He's got Judy. He's got Cortland Sutton. He's got Noah Fant. He's got new running backs with Melvin Gordon. Obviously, he still has Phillip Lindsay coming back. So he's got a lot of weapons at his disposal. And he's, showed some talent down the stretch last year. He's someone that could kind of sneak in there as a, league winner if you draft him late. If you're going over, one QB and you're just waiting until the very end, snatch him up. He could win your league. And then the last one that I had, Alexander Madison. A lot of it depends on Dalvin Cook, but if Dalvin Cook goes down, he could be a stud. I mean, he's like number 44 running back, and he looked like Dalvin Cook on the field at some times last year. So
I got to change my keepers now.
A little curveball there for
Anybody else got a sleeper? Anybody else got a sleeper? Going once? Going
Sleeper.
We got a sleeper.
Up till 3 last.
Oh, there he is, the man. Oh my God! Thank you for joining us, Walter. I am so indebted to you. These guys are all in my league. They're all smart. Some of them are world famous, like Ken there. He's a world famous mathematician. So if he actually didn't waste his time on real life stuff, he'd probably kill us in fantasy. But anyway, Matt Hawkins, my arch rival for 10 years. And then we got Jim Eade, who I've been blessed to meet recently. But the great Walter, welcome to our show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Mike. It's great to be with you again after a long hiatus.
Yeah. We were just talking about sleepers. You got any sleepers for this year?
Yeah, I have a lot of sleepers. I don't know if I'm just joining you guys. I was busy before, so I don't know if you touched on any of these guys. But my favorite sleeper is Darius Slayton, the receiver for the Giants. His average draft positions around mid-9th round. I think he should be going a lot earlier. He was very impressive last year as a rookie. And I think with Daniel Jones entering his second year, the Giants improving their offensive line, and Slayton now having experience, I think Slayton could have a huge season and wouldn't surprise me at all if he's a top 15 receiver this year.
I owned him in every league last year. I loved him, but my fear with him is there's too many mouths to feed there.
No, that's definitely true. But as I think as the season progressed last year, Daniel Jones really started focusing more on Darius Slayton more than the other targets. I know Saquon Barkley wasn't quite himself because he was injured. So we're going to see Saquon Barkley at 100% this year. But I just think Slayton is the best receiver they have on the roster. You have Golden Tate's aging, Sterling Shepard I think just above average. And so Evan Ingram's always hurt. So I think Slayton has a good chance to be a top receiver.
Walter, I thought you were my friend, dude. I mean, I traded him. I could have kept him in every league. I traded him in every league. So I wish I had known if I knew you, because I really liked the guy. But that's a really good one. You got anybody else?
Yeah, staying in the division, Desean Jackson. I can't believe his average draft position is 1204. He had the game of his life last year in Week 1 against the Redskins, who the Eagles play in Week 1 this year. So he was amazing, and then he got hurt after that. And I know, like, you can't really rely on that. You know, you could get injured again. He may only play 3 or 4 games once again. But if he can stay healthy, if he can remain on the field for 10, 11 games, he can win someone a fantasy championship. He has great potential. He's going to be the number 1 receiver with Carson Wentz. Alshon Jeffrey is going to be on the pup list. So the Eagles, outside of Jackson, they just have inexperienced receivers. So Carson Wentz, I feel like he's going to connect with Jackson quite a bit.
Is that it?
Oh, I could keep going forever. I have so many sleepers. Yeah, Chase Edmonds, the number 2 running back in Arizona. I think he's talented, and Kenyon Drake has never handled the full workload. Damian Harris, running back for the Patriots, his average draft position is 1306. He's been handling the number 1 duties, and Sony Michel is injured. So I think Harris starts, and getting a starting running back in the middle of the 13th round, that's amazing to me. Anthony Miller, receiver for the Bears, his average draft position is 1210. Miller improved his work ethic in the middle of last year, and you saw it toward the end. Like, he really took a step forward, and his receivers coach said that Miller has continued the same work ethic. So I think Miller could take a nice step forward. I like him more in PPR leagues than standard. I hate the Bears quarterback situation, but if Nick Foles starts over Trubisky, that's going to help Miller a lot because, first of all, Foles loves targeting slot receivers. And second, Foles doesn't scramble like Trubisky does. So every time Trubisky scrambled, that was a potential target taken away from Miller. With Foles not scrambling, Miller is going to get more targets. So those are my top 5 sleepers, but I have a list of like 15.
Wow. Well, anybody who wants that information, go to walterfootball.com. And I forgot to set this up. I meant to in the backstage. When you came on, I was going to have everybody say, "We're not worthy. We're not worthy." Because I'll tell you, Matt Hawkins has been a big fan of you for years. So has Dana on the show yet. But, dude, we're all like we're not worthy to have you on the show even. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time here with Walt to get him caught up with the questions we already asked. One was, what got you interested in football and fantasy football?
So, Walter, by 2021 mock draft, do you mean next year or this year?
Well, the 2021 NFL mock draft, that's for the actual NFL draft. So Trevor Lawrence is number 1. Yeah, we have a lot of fantasy football mock drafts on the site as well. All of them are via YouTube videos. And actually, you can join us and live draft with us. We do it Thursday evening, usually it's 6:30, but sometimes different times.
Could Trevor Lawrence be a bust, you think? Or is he a sure thing?
He's 99.99% sure thing. Like, if he's a bust, I think it's because of an injury or something like that. From all, like, the one question I had about Trevor Lawrence going into I guess this offseason was, I wondered if the work ethic was there, because we know he has great talent. He has a great arm. He has mobility. He's accurate. He's tall. Like, he has everything physically. I didn't know if he had the work ethic, but and I still like. NFL personnel, they really don't talk to these prospects until a couple months before the draft. So I couldn't really rely on any of the sources that I have or Charlie Campbell has. But based on how he wanted to play this season, how he really campaigned for college football to happen, like, it looked like it looks like he's a diehard football junkie and he just wanted to be on the field. So I really have faith that Trevor Lawrence is going to be great in the NFL.
What are you expecting from Tua?
I don't think Tua's going to start week 1. I don't think he's ready. And his agent, Lee Steinberg, doesn't want Tua to play. Lee Steinberg said he believes that rookie quarterbacks should sit a year. And, he has Patrick Mahomes. He has Patrick Mahomes to lean on that. Patrick Mahomes played 1 game in his rookie year, and we saw what happens after that. So that's something Lee Steinberg says. He said that rookie quarterbacks should sit the rookie year, and Tua is not 100%. So I think that it makes a lot of sense for Tua to just sit and watch Ryan Fitzpatrick for about half a year. If he's 100%, maybe he can play in November or December, or maybe get a couple of starts here and there. But there's no rush. The Dolphins aren't going to win this year. So you might as well sit Tua, make sure they have a great offensive line heading into 2021. And then 2021, he could be the starting quarterback going forward.
Okay. Everybody's almost a consensus that it's Clyde first, Taylor second. What about Swift and Dobbins?
I like Swift number 2. I think there's a better chance he's going to be the starter rather than Taylor. Marlon Mack's a very good running back. So I don't think it's a guarantee that Taylor starts at all this year. I think it will happen. But I think there's a better chance that Swift passes Kerryon Johnson, who's always injured, rather than Taylor passing Mack. So I would draft Swift number 2, and I love Swift as a prospect. I thought he was the number 1 running back prospect in the draft. I think Edwards-Helaire fit what the Chiefs do, better. So I think that's maybe why Andy Reid drafted him once all the cornerbacks were off the board. But I would draft Swift 2. And actually, Dobbins and Taylor are pretty tied for me. Mark Ingram's wearing down, and Dobbins has been electric in training camp. So I think it's about an equal chance that one of those guys wins the starting job.
Now, just to tie in here for a second, in a dynasty league, if you're going for Jonathan Taylor versus DeAndre Swift or J.K. Dobbins in that regard, do you feel like, the potential for Marlon Mack getting traded here? Is that potentially sway that opinion in some way?
It makes it a lot closer, I think. I would still go Swift. I'm a big believer in his talent. The offensive line in Indianapolis does really play a factor there. So that's another reason why it's very close. But yeah, I just love DeAndre Swift. I think he's going to be a superstar. And Taylor, I like Taylor as well. But yeah, the fact that you're not going to get him this year necessarily as the starter, I think that's also kind of a tiebreaker. And it's another reason why I love Dobbins too, is because Mark Ingram's not going to be around for more than 2 years. He might be gone after this year, for all we know. Dobbins would be the starter heading into 2021 in all likelihood. And it's so hard to stop the run in Baltimore because they have Lamar Jackson as a threat. So Dobbins, I think you can make an argument for him being number 2.
I think for me, and you can see from the background here, I'm a huge diehard Lions fan, right? The problem is, and I want to love Swift. I love the guy. I love the draft pick, but I'm like, there's never a running back since this guy behind me, Barry Sanders, right? In Detroit, who was nominated, who has had, especially in the Matt Stafford era. I mean, you had like Reggie Bush had 1,000-yard season, but nothing consistent. So that's my one fear is kind of that lingering in the back of my mind in the Matt Stafford offense. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally get being jaded there. I when I was younger and biased before I started my website, I used to love the Eagles. And when the Eagles drafted Donovan McNabb, I was like, oh, here we go, another bust quarterback. They had like Ty Detmer and Corey Detmer and all these guys who were terrible before after Randall Cunningham got injured, and then McNabb was great. So I think. You can also ask Chiefs fans about that too. They went through a lot of quarterbacks, and then Patrick Mahomes came along. So you never know. Like things could change. I actually like the Lions this year if Stafford can stay healthy. I think that's a big factor for me. His back is a huge question mark, but I think the Lions have a good roster. So I wonder. I really hope Stafford stays healthy, so the Lions could potentially win the division. It's a weak division.
Well, you got my wheels turning now with all the running backs that we've mentioned that, some of them are questionable because they may or may not get the starts. So if you're drafting in Dynasty, do you take Jerry Jeudy or Lamb over the running backs?
No, I would still go running backs. I think they're very talented. It's not like they're iffy running backs who I think if all 4 get a chance, all 4 could succeed. So given how scarce running backs are, I think you have to go running back. Receivers are so plentiful. It's it's easier to get a good receiver than a good running back. Much easier this year than ever. So I think I would definitely go running back there. And it's not like Jerry Jeudy's in a great situation.
Right.
With Drew Lock, we don't know how good Drew Lock's going to be. If he's a bust, Jerry Jeudy's never going to reach his full potential until they get a good quarterback. So, I can see the Lamb argument because of that offense, but I would definitely take running back over Jeudy.
Too many mouths to feed there too in Dallas, right?
Yeah, it's a ton of mouths to feed. We've seen Amari Cooper fade down the stretch, so that could happen again. And I think Lamb could have a big second half of the year. But early in the year, Lamb is going to be very inconsistent. Like he might have a great game, and then he sees 2 targets because there's so many mouths, as you said.
Okay, I want to ask you real quick. We all shared our best story and our best trade, worst trade, all that. Mine was trading my son, Plexico Burris, for Chris Johnson the night that Plexico went and shot himself. So Walter, that was awesome. So you got any stories for us, Walter, of a great trade or a funny fantasy story? I know you do.
Yeah, I actually wrote about 5 I have in my book, a safety and a field goal. I guess one I'll share with you guys is like one of the first fantasy leagues I ever did. This was back in 2000, I believe, or 2001. So it was kind of a new league, and I was invited for the first time, and I had the second pick, and that was back when Marshall Faulk was the consensus number 1, and there was no number 2. And so I thought, oh man, who do I draft? I had no idea. So I was kind of scouring through my notes, and the guy who had the number 1 pick, he was on the clock to begin the draft, and he took like 2 or 3 minutes, and I was like sitting there like, what's he waiting on? Like, it's Marshall Faulk, obviously. What's he doing? And so he finally looks up from his fantasy magazine and says, I'm picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
The whole room was silent. Like, what is happening? And then everyone erupted in commotion. And then I was like, I'll take Marshall Faulk. And the commissioner stops everything. He's like, hold on a second. He's like, the guy's name is Eric. He's like, Eric, why do you want the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense? And Eric says, because defense wins championships. and Eric says, that's not how it works in fantasy. You can get Tampa Bay much later in the draft. And he goes, oh, okay. And then he looks at me and smiles and then says, I'll take Marshall Faulk. So my dreams are dashed.
This close.
Yeah, very close.
I've maybe done that in chess. I'm not sure.
I took Brady at first in my first draft because Joe Buck they asked him, well, you won the championship. And he said, it all starts with Tom Brady. So I took Brady first. My sons laughed at me, and that's the year Brady got hurt. So, yeah. And I've been a curse to everybody I ever take first in that league. So that's pretty funny. All right. I think we should go around 3 guys you must have on your team, and then 3 guys you hate. So, Walter, you want to lead off?
Three guys you must have on your team. I guess it really depends where you draft, right? So I would say in the middle of the first round, you could take a bunch of running backs. Someone I really love is Josh Jacobs. I bet on him to have the most rushing yards this year. Las Vegas has a great offensive line, and the Raiders are going to want to have Josh Jacobs on third down a lot. They're talking about him potentially catching 40 passes this year. So he's actually pretty live in PPR leagues now, unlike last year. So I think Jacobs is outstanding. Obviously, I also have Clyde Edwards-Helaire you can take in the middle of the first round. Nick Chubb, they have all these guys who are great. But I think that Josh Jacobs is my favorite of the running backs. Another running back I like a lot is Devin Singletary, and he's being drafted in the third round, which is kind of surprising to me.
Are you worried about Moss?
No, I'm not worried about Zach Moss. I don't think Zach Moss is that good. And I think Singletary is a lot better. The Bills have a solid offensive line. And as I said with Baltimore, Buffalo has a scrambling quarterback, Josh Allen. So I think it's pretty hard to defend Devin Singletary. So and I'm expecting a big things from Buffalo this year. I think the Bills are going to win the division pretty easily. So unless Cam Newton's 100%, then we don't know. But unless Newton is assuming that he gets banged up, I think Singletary could have a big year for the Bills in winning the division. A couple of receivers I love, I should say. kind of two abbreviations, AJ Brown and DK Metcalf. They're both kind of tied for me as the second year sleeper receiver. And I kind of like sleeper because they're going in the fifth round or so. I think they should be going in the third round based on their talent level. DK Metcalf is a monster, and he really turned into Russell Wilson's number one receiver last year. AJ Brown is fantastic as well. And I remember him being great. And I rewatched the 2019 season earlier this summer, and I forgot how dominant AJ Brown was. He was even better than I remembered him. So I think both those guys have top 5 potential for receivers this year. Not they won't necessarily be top 5 receivers, but I think they have the potential to get there. So I love both guys. I'm going to try to have at least one on my roster.
Okay, great. I want to ask you real quick about Tua. What do you expect from Tua the next year? I know he's asking to be Mahomes level, but do you expect him to have great success next year?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Dolphins have a lot of draft picks. They have 2 first-round picks again next year, so they can really revamp their offensive line. They can add a good running game and then just add to their defense. So the Dolphins are going to have such a good team if they draft well, and I think Tua is going to be a big part of it. I love Tua. He kind of reminds me of Russell Wilson in a sense. So I think he has that sort of upside. So yeah, definitely like Tua in 2021.
Okay. The 3 guys that I feel I must have, I'm actually Mahomes, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones. Let's move on to Matt. What 3 guys do you have to have?
I think for me, and this is kind of running in my theme in my dynasty leagues, is Saquon Barkley, Matt Stafford, and Calvin Ridley. I really think Stafford's going to have a bounce back year. I know that the back is the concern. I love the offense. That's not just me being a Lions fan. I really just love the offense with what they did last year, with what he built on. He was number 2 average quarterback per points per game before he got hurt last year. So just kind of seeing what he can do with that. Saquon Barkley, he had some injury problems last year, but he's got potential there. He's obviously got the electrifying ability, and he was dominant towards the fantasy playoffs last year. So I'm going to build off that again. I've got him in 2 of my dynasty leagues. I'm going to continue to own him. And then Calvin Ridley, like I said before, I really think he's going to have a breakout year. Him and Julio Jones. If Julio Jones goes down, he's gonna break out. And he's gonna dominate. So with Hayden Hurst opening things up as well, those are the 3 guys that I want to have.
Love it. Okay. Ken, you got 3 guys you love?
Well,
Yeah.
Chris McCaffrey, of course. I have special reasons for loving him.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I don't know Hunter Henry. Is one of my breakout candidates as a TE. But he's kind of like, he hasn't delivered, but he's got to deliver one of these years pretty soon. And, Josh Allen, got to go from my hometown. This will be the year he breaks out.
Well, so your Bills are rolling, baby. That's all good news for you. Awesome. What have you got, Jim? You got 3 guys you really have to have?
Well, Christian McCaffrey won the league for me last year, and I watched him play at Stanford the whole time that he played there. And so I wouldn't pass him up if I got the chance to get him. But Saquon Barkley would be the next one. And I don't think I'm going to be able to pick McCaffrey, but I think I will be able to pick Barkley. So I will be fat, dumb, and happy. And it's one of those things. It's all injury dependent, but and also Carolina, I'm not so sure is going to be a good team this year, but I still think McCaffrey will put up a lot of yardage and get in the end zone a lot too. So he's the guy I couldn't pass up. And but Barkley would be a hometown favorite, and also I think he's going to have the numbers to back it up. And of course, Mahomes is a quarterback. You have to take him. If you get a chance, I doubt I'll get a chance. But I also, the guy that I would hate to pick would be any Cowboy. Sorry for Cowboy fans.
Wow, awesome. Okay, we're getting low on time, so we have a last question, and I'm going to do it reverse order. I want to. I got 3 guys I hate, and I actually got more. Todd Gurley, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mark Ingram, Cooper Kupp, who went off the cliff last year, A.J. Green, and my main problem, Lamar Jackson could end up being the next RG3. And then who's going to replace him? RG3. The guy runs too much. I think he's got some injury risk. So I'm going to go reverse order now. Jim, 3 guys you hate.
David Johnson, Odell Beckham, and not sure about the third, but those 2 definitely. Maybe AJ Green too, even though I traded for him.
Yeah, and you just got rid of him. Oh, excellent. Jim, you got 3 guys you hate?
Well, like I said, any Cowboy. I was crushed when Cooper went to the Cowboys from the Raiders. Well, obviously, I followed. And I like the comment about Jacobs, because he was also on my team last year, and he did very well for me. And I expect him to continue to put up numbers. So those are the guys that I cannot pick a Cowboy. I can pick an Eagle. I can pick a Washington team, but I just can't pick a Cowboy.
Wow, awesome. All right, now my 2 guys that I really, really wanted on the show, and they're here. It may be the last time. Maybe I can get Walt to send me a card of his daily picks that we can post here to pimp his website. But this might be it for Matt Hawkins. So, Matt,
We'll see.
Matt.
a lot of guys, so I'll let you pick more than 3.
Well, the 3 biggest ones for me now. First of all, Tom Brady. He could have a great year. I just will never draft him in fantasy. Can't do it. And that's coming from a Michigan fan, right? Like I can't draft Tom Brady in fantasy. Just can't do it.
Yeah, inflated opinion.
But the guys that really, for me, I think aren't worth their ADPs are Odell Beckham, Amari Cooper, and Tyler Higbee. First of all, Amari Cooper being in that Dallas offense. I mean, you got CeeDee Lamb, you got Gallup, the potential, Blake Jarwin, obviously Ezekiel Elliott. So there's a lot going on in that offense. It could be prolific. They could all get, someone could break out, but I want to stay away, especially with where he's being drafted. Odell Beckham, just don't have faith in that Cleveland offense for him. I honestly would rather have Jarvis Landry than Odell Beckham. I just feel like there's a better chemistry there with Baker Mayfield, and they got Austin Hooper now too. So I just don't see it. And Tyler Higbee, I'd rather have Hayden Hurst. Get a much better bargain for Hayden Hurst than for Higbee, where he's being drafted, and he spent 4 years in the league, didn't do anything.
Yep.
Dominated last year towards the end of the year, but I don't see that being the case consistently, especially with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and I just don't see that lasting consistent, just like it did last year. So those are my 3.
I love you, Matt. It's going to be, for 10 years, we have played in the finals like almost every time. So this is a competitor. I'm glad to have him on the show. Thank your wife for letting you come on. Walter, have you ever done an auction draft?
I've done auction mock drafts, never a real one, unfortunately. I've always wanted to do a real one. I guess my friends don't like the real auctions.
I wanted the professor to figure out, because I'm like really into it. There's no rush like an auction draft. You get $200, and I figured out you spend the max on 3 guys and then get everybody else. You get your quarterbacks for $1. But the 3 guys I got were Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, and then I alternated between Clyde and Aaron Jones. But the auction drafts, no rush like that. And I never asked you that question, Walt. So, Walt, you can take us home now. I'm so glad to have you here. Give us some guys you hate before we draft tonight. We're drafting tonight. So,
Most of the guys.
Good luck with all your drafts. I don't like Derrick Henry at all this year. I know he had a great playoff run, but his ADP is 105, and there's a long history of running backs who lead the league in carries just falling off the following year. The Titans also lost Jack Conklin, their talented right tackle, so his blocking is not going to be as good, and he's going to be wearing down. So I would avoid Derrick Henry in the first round. Kenyon Drake is being drafted in the middle of the second round, which is wild to me. He's never handled a workload in not just NFL, but also college. So suddenly we're expecting for him to do that. I just don't see it. And Cliff Kingsbury has been talking up Chase Edmonds a lot, so I think Edmonds could start at some point this year. Another running back I dislike is James Conner. His ADP's 301, a little too high for me. I feel like he should be drafted like 4th or 5th round. The Steelers really they said they were disappointed in how he ran last year. So it wouldn't surprise me if they want to try to get Anthony McFarland or Benny Snell or try to displace him in some sort of fashion, maybe go in a running back rotation. So if his own team doesn't like him, why would I draft him?
Yeah. Any burning desires? Anybody else have anything they want to share?
Well, I was just really fascinated that you mentioned Henry as a running back because he was just so impressive at the end of last year. But you just pushed him down on my draft board. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Walt, you got anything else that you can share before we close?
Well, just at WalterFootball.com, we have tons of fantasy content, updated sleepers, busts, cheat sheets, rankings. We have a ton of content. So anything it's there. Jerks of the week too, right? Yeah.
Walter is so funny, so informative, and wow, this has been a lot of fun. I cannot thank you guys enough. What a great first show, and thank you for Matt, especially Matt and Walter. And Ken, you're like a famous guy. So I don't know why Jim has decided he's going to be here every week, but God bless him too.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to be here to help you with your waiver wires throughout the year. And thank you for watching our show.
Okay.